You want to convert into an app that uses image recognition and AI to, you take a photograph of the wound and it,
Right.
picks up basic parameters like the granulation of the wound, the size of the wound, etc., and the type of the wound. So that is, more image recognition. Combine that with AI and machine learning, and come up with a diagnosis. So, okay, if you even do a normal small dressing at your local clinic, local doctor does that, and if that wound keeps on festering, at some point of time, the patient is going to lose his livelihood because he will not be able to step out of
Yes.
home, or he manages to step out of home, he will not be able to, function as a normal
Yes.
person would. So the cost of not doing it is much, much higher than the cost of doing it.
Doing it.
So
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. And today we have a very wonderful personality, Mr. Subir Batra, whom we have as a host. And it's going to take a 30-40 minute interview with Subir Batraji. So over to you, Subiji, and I would really like you to introduce yourself to our viewers. I believe, and what I know about you is that you are from IIT background, from BITS Pilani, which is very commendable. And from there, you have moved on from consulting to healthcare industry, which is so very much like, it's the hottest topic these days is health and healthcare industry. So please throw some light about yourself, your education, and thank you so much for giving this time to SoilCup today.
thank you, Sarla. Thank you so much for having me. About myself, so if I go back where we started off from, I graduated, like you said, from BITS Pilani. I was the gold medalist there. Moved on to management at IIM Bangalore, and since there I've been doing a lot of different things. So I went on to consulting. Started with consulting in the US. That was my first job, and then spent about 4 years there. Came back to India. Went into financial services and then into consulting, and then finally I said, this is the time. We've been doing so much. Why don't I start doing something of my own?
Right.
So that's when I took a little break to try to figure out what I could do.
Right.
Because there's so many options out there, right? And you need to figure out, what makes sense and what aligns with what you want to do also. So yeah, I had done some consulting in the healthcare space also earlier. And that's when healthcare seemed a good opportunity. And what happened was my family was in the business of textiles.
Right.
And I had the opportunity to talk to some people in technical textiles, and technical
Right.
textiles specifically for the healthcare domain. So that's where it all started, and I started seeing an opportunity in what was at that point in time a very, very nascent industry, looking at surgical, on the whole idea of technical textiles, drapes, etc. We heard a lot about PPEs, etc. during COVID, but that at that point in time it was almost unknown in India. So got into this whole business of developing the drapes for surgical operations, and that's where
Right.
the whole healthcare journey started. So we built up a company called SafeOp Surgical, which I exited very, very recently. So about 3 years ago, I exited that. And now I'm running this company called Docuses, where we're focusing on our wound care brand, which is called Quorit Wound Care. So this is an advanced wound care company. What we're positioning it at and what we're building is India's first, comprehensive, complete wound management company. India has a huge need, and we'll talk about that as we progress in the interview. But this is a very this is again an industry which is at an inflection point, and it is poised to grow. We have a huge need. We have limited supply of good quality products for this for to cater to this need. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just about started off. We started the company in 2020 right after COVID, but then we took a lot of time in developing our products. So a lot of research, because these are research-based products. These are what is called
Right.
cellular tissue-based products, which is CTP. It took a lot of time for us, 2 years for us to actually develop, our initial set of products, and then we went into the market and gained a lot of understanding of the market, and now we're in a stage where we're looking to grow it further.
Right. Got it. Got it. Absolutely wonderful transformation, I think, from consulting to healthcare. But so when you went to US, what made you come back to India?
That's that's a question I get so often. I'm just tired of answering that actually.
Oh God.
But in fact, very recently, someone I met and they asked the same question. And typically these days, I don't even get into answering it. But the way it turned out was, I always wanted to come back. So
Right.
this was like the first
Right.
job, good exposure for me. Always wanted to get back here, and I did not want to get into that whole, what used to call at that point of time the N+1 syndrome. So everyone used to say, I'm going to get back to India. Or, most of my
Yes.
friends were, we want to get back to our own country, but we'll do
Right.
it next
Right.
year. That was the
Right.
N+1. Every year that N used to be N+1. So finally, one day I just decided that, I need to be back. So I need to be back. That's it. Because I
Wonderful.
knew the more time I spent, the more difficult it would be to get back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How long did you spend in US?
So I was there for 4 years.
4 years. Oh, okay. I think that's a good decision then. So I think the moment you cross 10 years or so, then you become
No.
an American. Then
Yeah,
it's
then you
difficult
completely
to,
become American. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything
But
is
I've had
Americanized.
friends. I've had friends who've come back even after that time. So
Right, right, right,
I just met a friend of mine during last week who was there for I think 17 years before he came
right,
back with my full
right.
family. So there are instances,
Great,
but very yeah.
great. And the second thing which, it struck my mind, like, when you said you also have some expertise or experience in financial services. So,
Yes.
were you in the banking or were you in investment or,
So I was in insurance. So
right,
I was handling strategy for a couple of big insurance companies.
right,
Um, I was there in ICICI Prudential when we were
right,
just building up the whole, the sector was just coming up at that point in time. So we built up a huge distribution channel, the products, etc., etc. And after that, I went to MetLife again.
right,
And even in consulting, in the latest stage of consulting, which I did in India, was in the financial services area.
right. And from financial services, you moved to health industry. So currently,
Correct.
exactly what kind of products, are there with your company, and who are the kind of people who are going to be helped, through your company and the products which you have done so much of research about. Also, please talk about the wound care program, like, yeah.
So, you know, um, it's strange that we don't notice it, but if you really start looking around, and this is what happened when I, you know, saw my first case as such. I saw the first case that of this kind. So you notice that there are lots of people who are suffering from wounds, and the type of wounds that I'm talking about is if you look at diabetics.
Hmm,
Once
hmm, hmm.
diabetics reach a certain stage, and this is typically towards the later stage of their lives, but a lot of times in the initial phases also, they start getting these little cuts and nudges, and which after some point of time don't actually heal. So they come to a stage that you apply your normal medicine, you do the bandaging, do the dressing, but they just don't heal. And a
Yes.
lot of it has to do with the way the body is responding because
Mm.
of the uh, underlying morbidity of diabetes that you have.
Diabetes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And
So the wound just doesn't heal, and once the
yes.
wound stops healing, the pain and the trauma associated with it keeps on growing.
Yeah.
So that is one kind. And if you look at our country today, everyone calls India the diabetes capital of the world, right? We have
Yes.
we have over 10 crore diabetics in India today.
I'm
And
I'm one of them.
oh, so you've got to be careful because 25% of diabetics are that this statistic, 25% of diabetics actually end up developing a diabetic foot ulcer. A
Correct.
foot ulcer is, that can actually destroy the quality of life that the person has, because it could, if you look up in Google, sometimes you'll know what I'm talking about. It could be a small ulcer, this size, just smaller than your finger, and it could also be something that, exposes the bone completely. So I've seen ulcers of the size of, a katori jo hoti hai na, that big, with the
Right. Oh
bones
my
and the
God.
people
Right.
suffering with it years. So we've treated people who have been suffering from this wound for 5 years, 10 years also.
Right.
So we've been with the wound for 10 years, no one actually managed to treat it, and our products, are helping them get back on the feet. So diabetes is one. Then you have venous ulcers, which are basically due to venous insufficiency. Basically, the concept is that veins push blood back to the heart, right? But if that valve function is faulty in your feet, then it is not possible for the blood at your feet to go up to the heart because the pressure is in the opposite direction. So in those cases also you have these kind of wounds. You have a lot of people who are non-ambulatory, so people who are bedridden,
Yes.
in hospitals, at home, the older population especially, they cannot move out. So there is this friction between the bed and the body, and at these pressure points, you develop again injuries, right? Which can be starting from just a redness, a scratch, shear, and then going into really, really bad wounds. So these are the
Absolutely.
kind of
I've heard,
wounds
I've
that
experienced, with in many people I have seen in family, amongst friends, and I'm well aware of this, Subiji, the kind of problems which these diabetic people are getting,
Mhm.
including these bed sores, and because they are stuck in the bed.
Yeah.
And definitely the wounds that you're saying, it's not just once, but I've known that, it's a repeating thing. So if you have diabetes, and it can come anywhere in the body, not just the feet maybe, but it can come anywhere.
Primarily, primarily the feet, because feet is where the body's weight comes in. That's where the friction of you're walking. Let's say you're walking barefoot. I mean, it's easy to develop a cut, and because your nerve cells
Right,
are damaged at that point of time,
right,
at that point, you don't even know that something's gone wrong, right? You don't know
right,
that you feel it. You don't feel the cut. You don't feel the cut. You let it, continue till it really becomes very, very bad. So, so yeah.
right,
So our estimate is overall about 5 crore people in this country are suffering from cases of this kind. Probably
right,
more
right,
than that. And of course, then there are
right,
burns. And the really, really second degree, third degree burns,
right.
which just can't apply a burn oil and take care of, right? So
Mm.
these are the cases that these are the type of patients that our products are, actually catered to.
So where does the products come in? Is it a machine, or what kind of products are they which will help, in these wounds?
So
Because
there
if
are
5
people.
crore people are going to be affected by this, then this program is going to be very, very, like, useful for so many of them. And probably, we can really save many of them. And yeah, this is an awareness program, sort of, yeah, it's,
It's not about saving them first. It's about saving their limbs first.
yes,
Because
yes,
there is one amputation that happens every 30 seconds in this world, and this
my
is
God.
not this is not because of accident. These are because of conditions of this kind. One amputation every 30 seconds, which is around 25% of the people who develop these kind of wounds. And
Mm-hmm.
again, most of them can actually be prevented if the right kind of intervention happens at the right
Right,
point in time. You
right.
know, if you deal with the wound in the first 30 days, first 60 days, yes, a lot of it can be saved. But
Mm-hmm.
people just keep continuing with it for over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that also largely is because today most of the doctors and the primary care physicians are not aware of how to treat the wounds. So the initial treatment that these patients are given is not the right treatment. The initial treatment either does not do anything to stop the wound from getting worse or actually makes it worse, right? And
Mm.
that is because, again, two reasons. One, they've not been trained for that. So it's not really their fault, but they haven't been trained. If you look at MBBS programs or, doctoral programs, you have, a stream for everything, right? You have a stream for the
Yes,
cardiac, you have a stream for gastro, you have an ortho stream, you have general surgery, but there is
absolutely.
unfortunately no stream for wound treatment.
I see.
Okay. So
Right.
there is very education that goes in there. And second, of course, is the lack of availability of the right products.
Hmm.
Now, coming to your question about what kind of products these are, yes, there are companies that work on mechanical, machine-based products for it.
Machines. Right.
Yes, that's typically a treatment called negative pressure wound therapy, which is, you attach a machine, you do suction, you suck out, whatever exudate is in the wound, and hope that by cleaning the wound it gets better. Now that is one way of looking at it, but we believe that is not very successful. I mean, it is
Right.
success. People see, but it is not very effective and it's not very practical also, because you
Hmm.
have you staying in bed with a machine attached to you for 7 days continuously, and then you repeat it
Hmm.
after 7 days again. So you're not even taking it off when you're sleeping or when you're going to the bathroom. You still have it attached to you. So not very practical. But I mean, this is something that has been propagated in the world as a good treatment methodology. But we believe it is, you need to have products that interact with the body at a cellular level
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
enhance the body's healing capability, not just creating an environment. Because these products actually, what a machine does is it creates an environment, right? Cleans it
Right.
up, oils, so that the body can heal itself. But the
Hmm.
products that we developed actually interact, so it
With the
enhances
tissues, with deeply with the tissues.
with the tissue.
Right.
So these products get absorbed into the wound bed and they enter
Hmm.
the cells. I mean, it works with the cellular mechanism and the to develop the tissue. So if you have, let's say, a deep wound, right? You lost your dermis. Dermis is that layer of the skin, the deeper layer of the skin. Yeah,
Yes.
you've lost it. So you have to somehow develop, close the wound, which is the tissue has to be developed. The blood vessels have to come there. The dead cells have to be replaced with live cells. So our products work on that level, get absorbed, and then help the body speed up the
Mm-hmm.
process of.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As a
It's
category, I mean, they fall into the category of what's called cellular tissue-based products.
right. And I feel like calling you Dr. Batra now.
Oh, please don't do that. I have what's it called? A certificate in front of me right here, which someone's put a doctor there. But we went to
It
this.
is like as if I am talking to one. And so this my question is, is are there any doctors, qualified for this right now? And is there any specific name? Like, for instance, you have the doctors who are working on the feet, the podiatric surgeons, I
Mhm.
never knew that there is something called podiatry. So
Sorry?
only when I developed feet, pain in my feet, I went to the doctor and I said, I'm not able to stand. But otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm always running and walking and I'm so active. But suddenly I felt pain in the legs. And then I
Mhm.
was suggested, meet a podiatric surgeon. Though there was no surgery, but he was a doctor who was taking care only of the feet. So is there any particular doctor who's, what are they called?
So this is a field that is coming up in the
Right,
whole doctor ecosystem also. Now,
right.
podiatrists are a part. of this. So a lot of
Okay.
podiatrists act, you know, work towards healing these kind of wounds,
Correct.
right? So you have podiatrists, you have podiatric surgeons, there are various
Correct.
ways of treating, and podiatrists,
Right.
of course, is there. Then we have another segment who treat the diabetic foot. So you would see diabetic foot clinics coming up
Yeah.
in certain parts, very few, but they're still coming up. And then general surgeons, typically these cases go to general surgeon, either general surgeons, and if the general
Right.
surgeon is either not able to handle it or someone
Hmm.
is willing to go to some more specialized field, then it's plastic surgeons. For burns, you
Right.
have burn. What is also coming up now is there's a lot of interest among doctors and especially general surgeons to establish themselves as wound care specialists. So I
Wound care
believe,
specialist.
yeah, so I believe over the next 3-4 years, we will see a mushrooming of wound care clinics, because the need is so much, and a person with the need doesn't know where to go. So he goes to a place where he doesn't get the treatment, then he goes to another place, and after 5 or 6, iterations of treatment, he might or might not get to the right person. So
Absolutely.
doctors are also
Absolutely.
seeing this. Doctors are also seeing this, and we've seen a lot of training also that is coming up. You have specialized training
Hmm.
being given by medical colleges, by hospitals on this.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
See, we'll see wound care clinics coming up, and the first stages are also already happening. So we are having conversations with doctors to set up wound clinic. In fact, in Goa, there's a doctor called Dr. Suraj Prabhu Desai, who owns a small hospital there, and we are setting up a wound care clinic in association with him. Right?
And which city, may I ask?
This is Goa,
Oh,
Margao.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're based out of Goa?
No, no, I'm based in Surat.
Surat
So I'm
only.
based.
Okay.
My co-founder is based in Kolkata.
Kolkata. Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I hope we see something like this coming up in all the,
It,
metropolitan
it will.
cities. It has to
It will.
come.
And it's coming. It's starting from South India. So Hyderabad, we have
Wonderful.
a doctor who's just started a wound care clinic, and that it's not a clinic. It's like a 3-story hospital just for treating
Right.
wounds.
Right.
Uh, Dr.
Perfect.
Santosh Modi. So you have Bangalore, there are certain wound care clinics coming up. And if you look beyond India, so if let's say you go to the US,
Right.
in US there are about 6 or 7 wound care clinics per million population. India, you hardly have any doctors of that kind. So there it's
Hmm.
going into thousands of clinics, which have come up over the last 15 years. India is like
Right.
way, way beyond.
Like in so many
Yeah.
other things, we are behind.
We typically, mostly in most cases, are 15 years behind what is happening in
Yeah.
those countries, and this is also here. It's clearly
Yes,
playing out here. Now this whole ecosystem has started to develop.
absolutely. So, how important is, is AI playing any important role in this?
Yeah,
Yeah. Are
AI
they, like,
will.
for instance, for diagnosing or for, suggesting something to the people? Is AI also playing a role?
AI will. It's not that prominent today. So
Okay.
we were.
Eventually it will.
It will, and it has to, because, like you said, for diagnosis, for predictive analysis, for assistive treatment. So
Right.
we actually developed an app initially, of which
Right.
helps doctors follow the entire protocol. And
Right.
today
Hmm.
it's legal, right? So what that will do is it will also help the less experienced people, even at the say at some point of time, nurses, to get an idea of what kind of wound it is, and then give a prognosis, a suggestive analysis of, this is the line of treatment you need to take, and then develop smart bandages which will read the condition of the wound over a period of time and see, plot out the trends, and then
Hmm.
suggest, a change if required in the treatment. So those kind of, diagnosis and suggestive assisted treatment, that has
Mhm.
to come in, and we would want to play a role in it, but I think it's for India it is a little 2-3 years away, because first you need that critical mass to come up. Some of it
Right.
Well, in the West, some companies, I think two or three companies that have started, just about started
Hmm.
looking at this, but still,
I
they're still
see.
in them.
How expensive or how affordable is this going to be? Is there any idea right now?
So, I mean, affordability actually comes down to the ability of the person to pay.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, a large number of people who develop these kind of conditions are not very affluent. They're not very, very well off. In fact, large population is actually, you know, extremely poor also in that sense. Because you and I, if we have a wound, we take care of it. But think of an auto rickshaw driver or a laborer
Correct.
working in the farms, right?
Correct.
If they develop a wound, I mean, it's not possible. I mean, they don't look at it that way. It just festers and gets worse and worse. So a lot of
Yes.
these wounds that get really bad come from
Mm.
that kind of population, and their ability
Right.
to pay is limited. But the price is actually coming down. So our offerings are in the range of 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees is what we're looking at per dressing.
For dressing.
Um, so for a large population, you could say actually affordable, but
Hmm.
again, for a substantial population, even this is quite a bit because
I
you
see.
add on to it not just the dressing, you add on to it the doctor's fees, you add on to it
Yes.
the time and the loss of income for a daily laborer if he comes on to a
Right.
doctor's clinic. So you add in all those factors, and it actually, them it looks a little high. But
Hmm.
the other way to look at it, and this is some amount of
Hmm.
education also that has to go into it, is that if
Absolutely.
that wound festers, okay, if you even do a normal small dressing at your local clinic, local doctor does that, and if that wound keeps on festering, at some point of time, the patient is going to lose his livelihood because he will not
Hmm.
be able to step out of
Yes.
home, or he manages to step out of home, he will not be able to, function as a normal
Yeah.
person would. So the cost of not doing it is much, much higher than the cost of doing it.
Doing it.
Actually, I think as one way of looking at it is government hospitals. Of course, government hospitals give a lot of this for free, and we're working with these government hospitals also, the civil hospitals, and
Right.
the
Right. Right. Right.
so a lot of the effort has to come in from that side. So if
Hmm.
they have the access to the right products, I think that can make a big difference.
Yes.
But
And
what we
since
managed to do is we've managed to bring the cost of treatment quite low compared to where it was, because most of the companies that have been in this space um, have been international companies. So most of the products so far were imported.
hmm.
So obviously the cost was pretty high, and they were really not bringing their best products into this country because they saw
Right.
it as a very, very small opportunity because of the lower, the higher cost versus the ability of patients to pay. So that is why the industry is still quite underdeveloped, and that is where we
Naturally.
also see.
When we're talking about, affordability and expense, so my next question is, since we're also from the insurance background, so is this a part of the insurance policies and can people claim? Is it a part of it? Would that be, or one has
Most
to
of
work on
it
that also?
it has to be worked on, and that was the other
It
thing
has
I
to be
was
worked.
actually. It has to, because insurance in India typically today covers only inpatient. So if you just get a treatment and go away without staying for a night in the hospital, it's not going to be covered, right?
So
Most of
right
it.
now, Subhijit, right now there are a lot of changes in the industry also, the insurance industry also. So they have become very much, like customer centric, and they are giving this facility, OPD facilities. Not
Really?
all the not all the insurance companies, but I'm also from the same industry. So
Okay.
I'm very much aware that there are few good companies which are offering OPD facilities. So you can just walk
Okay.
in and walk out. Daycare
Yeah.
procedures, of course, there are more than 200 to 250 daycare procedures where you just
Okay.
walk in and walk out after a few hours. But this wound thing
Mhm.
also, I'm sure, will be included. And if
Yeah,
not, then we will collaborate and we will
we
make
should.
sure
We
that it is
should.
included.
We should do that. We should do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, what about those the government insurance, the PMJY and what is that?
The
Do they?
Pradhan
Yeah, yeah,
Mantri Yojana, So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
again, it is only meant for those people, two categories. A, they have to be a, 60 plus, 65 plus, and then they should not be filing good returns. So if their income is
Mm.
very low, it's for the low income people.
Mm.
So those people are eligible to get about 5 lakhs. But that
But do
also
they,
is,
OPD covered?
at the moment, OPD is not covered. At the moment, huh? They're not covered. We can actually, these are all the times when we should be working on these,
Yes.
laws to change and to make them tweak. Yeah, because
Yeah.
slowly, if people are getting aware and insurance knowledge is spreading now, much, much
Mhm.
better than what it was pre-COVID. COVID has taught everybody a big lesson. So people are
Yes.
also aware. The companies are also coming up with better, products
Mhm.
and better facilities for their customers. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it is developing, though, as you rightly said, India's, everything is 15 to 20 years later than what's happening in the West. Yeah, but it will
Hope at
happen,
some
I'm sure.
I hope at some
Yeah.
point of time Social Security will also kick in here. I
Yeah.
don't know when. Um,
Yeah.
doesn't look
And we should
likely in the
follow
near
all these
future.
things, I guess. We should follow all these things. But let's hope maybe it takes 50 years or 100 years for the many other generations they might. Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Definitely,
right.
definitely. So during this journey, Subhiji, is there anything very special in your life which has happened during this journey in your new venture that you can think of, something which has touched, moved, and inspired you? Uh,
I think this is a field that makes you think, and
right,
makes you more connected with the what people go through, you
right.
know, physically, emotionally. And I have nothing, no one incident, but I have seen people suffer, and I have seen the faces of people who then recover. So we've had a case where a person was suffering for 10 years and he could not move.
Oh,
And this doctor using our product actually cured him. And he had these big wounds on both legs. And today he can move around. So you can see, you see the difference, you see it in their faces, and the gratitude. So cases like this, a lot
yeah,
of cases like this.
right, right. I'm sorry, but just in case it gets disconnected, we still would like to have a conversation for 5, 10 minutes, right? We'll have to connect again. Yeah. So this must be very rewarding. It's a good, I hope it is a good rewarding thing, that you moved from your IT, being a gold medalist there, and then coming to this industry, helping people reduce their pain. I think there's nothing better than that.
Yeah,
So
but the other one was more financially rewarding so far, at least. Yeah, in
yeah,
the stages, yes, you have to invest a lot of time and money also in the initial phases. So for this company, yeah, it's taking a little time, but yes, otherwise it is a very rewarding journey.
rewarding
I
and
mean,
yeah, soul
yeah,
satisfying. Yeah, yeah. And it makes me like, think like maybe it's like a mission in your life. Maybe you were meant to do this. That's what I
maybe,
feel. Maybe it's a
maybe.
mission in your life. Yeah.
And the way it also happened, how I met my co-founder, we hardly knew each other, 4 years ago, we hardly knew each other. And then suddenly we get together and we say, okay, we want to do this, let's develop this.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's an expert in developing products. So a lot of the products that have been developed by us, a lot of research
Right.
has been done. Now we have a lot of people coming up and joining us in that way. So we have, IIT Kanpur that we are associated with today, and their
Right. Right.
biosciences department is very interested in bringing products of this kind. So they're doing a lot of R&D with us. We have a clinical research organization that is, working with us. So somehow, you start meeting these people, and they start getting associated with you, and then you realize you've got a common goal, and things start moving in that direction. You have a lot of doctors. For example, this doctor that I spoke to you about, he wanted to create a wound care clinic in Goa, because he used to get a lot of patients, and there was no
Hmm.
special facility to take care of it. So you kind of get associated with this from different angles, and then you see
Yeah.
people on the journey with you.
Absolutely. And I think then you would be the pioneer probably, in this industry then, the wound care industry.
I don't know about pioneer. We definitely are not the first. I'm sure there would be people who tried it, but I think we're doing it the in the concerted way that we're doing it, in a focused manner that we're doing it. I don't think anyone's doing it in India today.
Right, right, right.
We're
Giving
the
it a
kind of
lot of importance.
yeah, yeah. So
Perfect.
so the entire company is just focused on this. I mean, I don't see any company, any other company who's in India
Right.
completely focused on this, looking at it from the customer standpoint to say, okay, this is what the customer needs. How do we bring the best products
Mm,
to the market? How
right.
do we do the enough research to bring it to them? So
Mm,
yeah.
interesting. And right now, how many employees are there in the company?
So we have today, we have including on rolls, off rolls, we have 15 people.
15
Um,
people.
yeah, yeah.
And what about your future plans? And is there anything specific that you have in mind? And what is your goal, mission? What is your vision for future?
So we obviously want to take these products, take this industry. I mean, I wouldn't call it revolutionize and those big words. Everyone uses those big words, but the idea is to create and you know a company that can actually make a difference to the lives of people who are
Mm,
suffering from wounds. And obviously we want to be the first and the biggest to be doing this. I mean, those aspirations are obviously there. So we've also moved international. So we have a presence in Africa, we have a presence in Southeast Asia. We're getting
right,
registered in 10 countries around the world today. So a lot of things that we're doing. So we just don't want it to be India focused, because we see it
right.
as not like a nation kind of thing, but wherever there's a need, we want to go and we want to take care
Wonderful,
of. And
wonderful,
and
amazing.
we want to show the world that India can actually make better products than what
Mm,
exists today at a much lower cost. So
mm,
and interestingly, what's also helping us do that is, as we progress, is the government also is getting into this and starting to push research for Make in India products, which can actually be commercialized.
right,
So this is happening, and yeah. So I want to be among the biggest companies globally in the wound care area today.
right. Great. And fortunately, we have a government also, which is like, a progressive government, which is always thinking, in terms of, okay, how can we improve in every industry, every field, every area, and this is something which is really very important. Healthcare is very important. And
Yes.
yeah, I really wish you all the best. So yeah, Mr. Bhatt, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you. After listening to you, Subiji, it is like, I'm so glad that we had this interview today, this opportunity to meet you. And SoilCup is giving me and, of course, everybody else, especially the entrepreneurs, a wonderful platform, where they can showcase, their business, their success, and more so, people who are not in the limelight, because there are a lot of people who are being interviewed in podcasts, from different
Mm.
industry,
Mm.
celebrities. But this also is very, very important, and people have to know what ordinary people like us are doing
Yeah.
extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thank you
No,
so much for taking out time today. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you can please say a few words about Soil Cup and the opportunity, so that we can just, wrap it up then.
Yeah, I think Soil Cup is doing a great job by reaching out. Actually, you're taking a lot of effort to reach out to people who are working on different problems for for the betterment, or for the growth of the economy, or for people. So I think you're doing a great job, and it requires a lot of perseverance. It requires a
Thank you
lot of
so much.
effort.
Thank you so
And
much.
like I said, it is important for various voices to go out, out there, so people know what is happening. A lot of time,
Absolutely.
people like me who are working on problems just, have the head down and just doing things. But
Yeah.
important for us also to get some exposure of this kind. So thank you so much. And
Yeah, the good work which people are doing, one needs to talk about it. And I'm sure most of the people, they are focusing in their own work. They don't
yes,
feel like even talking about it. Let the work
yes,
speak. But here, Soil Cup is there for you all. And so that, we can spread the good word. And we would love to, have this video once it is done and published. Many people, many thousands of people will be watching this. So thank you so very much,
thank you,
Subirji,
sir. Thank
and
you so
hope to see you
much.
very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.